Good evening and welcome to Conversations with Crystal. I'm your hostess, Crystal, and this evening our guest is Keith Todd. Welcome, Keith. How are you today?
Hello, Crystal. Thanks for having me on your podcast.
No worries, Keith. I'm really happy to have you.
Oh, lovely to be here.
Thank you. I've known you for a fair while now, Keith, and I've always known you to be a consummate musician, and as a matter of fact, people call you the Human Jukebox.
That's true. They do call me the Human Jukebox, and that would be because I have such a long list of songs that I play, which is over between 600 and 700 songs. And I remember most of them without any lyrics or anything like that. I can just pull them out of my head.
Yep.
I don't know how I do it, but it's definitely a gift, and I'm really grateful to have that gift.
Oh, definitely. And what I really love about you performing is the timbre of your voice. It's so beautiful. And of course your guitar playing, but it's mostly the timbre of your voice. It's just beautiful.
Thanks very much, Crystal. I think that's why a lot of people do come to watch me play and hear me. And most of them say it's for my voice. And I do love to play guitar, and I do the best I can on that. And
well, I think it's
pretty adequate, I think. But,
I think so too.
Yeah, singing is my first love, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, so who or what was your earliest musical influence or inspiration?
Geez, I'm almost, it was a fair bit of Beatles. My mum and dad used to have a whole bunch of records, and I used to play them and listen to them, and soon worked out I really did like the Beatles. I had a lot of Beatles records, and but also there was a lot of like a one-hit wonder sort of stuff. You know, they used to sell those records in the 70s. You'd get every few months they'd bring out 20 fantastic hits or whatever.
Yeah.
And they had a lot of those. They always, whenever a new one of those came out, they'd get one of those. And so there was a lot of the one-hit wonder sort of songs that, very catchy tunes with simple lyrics and catchy melodies, And
yeah, they're some of the best, aren't they?
Yeah.
Okay. So when did you first start playing guitar, Keith?
Well, it wasn't really a guitar. It was a tennis racket.
Tennis racket.
A tennis racket was my first guitar. Used to jump up and down on the bed. I was a little kid, 6 or 7 years old, with whatever I could grab, really. What might not have been a tennis racket, anything that could pretend to be a guitar.
Yes.
And so I didn't actually get a guitar until I was about 10 or 11, and I still didn't know how to play it, and I was still sort of just pretending I could play it. So it wasn't until about 14 when I picked up my brother's guitar, and he showed me a few chords, and I pretty much taught myself from there. Within a year or two, I was playing pretty well. I could, complete whole songs, and which was the goal.
Absolutely. And when did the singing kick in?
I pretty much started I was singing from a young age, like 6 or 7. I'd be singing along with records, and as soon as I started to learn to play guitar, I wanted to sing as well at the same time. Mm-hmm. So I worked pretty hard at that in the first year of playing. I was at it every day, like singing and playing 3 or 4 hours every day in the first year when I was about 14, and progressed pretty quickly then.
Yes. Oh, that's fantastic. I hear so many musicians say, yep, we started around 12 or 14. That's when we got our first guitar. That's, when our parents put us into lessons, or they just got interested in it because of the Beatles or Led Zeppelin or somebody like that. So can you remember the brand of your first guitar?
Not really, but it wasn't a very good one.
Would the strings have been about an inch off the fretboard?
Yes, and didn't sound great, I think my first decent guitar was a Yamaha,
Oh, yep.
which, adequate, was good guitar.
Yeah.
And could never really afford anything like too much. Like the really good guitars, as you would know, they're like thousands of dollars.
Oh, yes.
If you want the top shelf.
Mm-hmm.
Most of my guitars were the cheaper end of things, Ibanez and Takamine or Takamine, whichever you want to call them. I had even a few really, really, really cheap Chinese guitars. But we won't mention them though.
No.
But I'm definitely spoiled these days. I have some beautiful guitars.
Oh, I think you do too. And I happen to get one of those from you. I feel very lucky.
That's true. It's true. How's that little
My
baby mate going?
My mini mate is wonderful.
Yes. They're a really good guitar.
Yeah. She recently had a fret crown, is it? Or, something like that. And they reset it up and did things to it. So,
yeah. That makes a difference too.
Oh, it has done, yes. It has done, that's for sure. I thoroughly enjoy playing that guitar, I must say. I coveted that from the first moment I saw you with it.
No, that's a good one too. It's not the laminate. You can get them with laminated back and sides, but that's all solid.
Yes.
The one you got, that's a good one.
Yes, I really appreciate that too. Thank you.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
So, Keith, how did you get your start as a musician, as a working musician?
Well, it sort of graduated from, I did a lot of busking early on when I was a teenager. And that's where I met another guy who was busking as well. And, we've been wandering around the rocks after we'd finished busking, and we went to a few pubs and we saw other musos playing in these pubs, like solos and duos, and we thought we could do that, Anyway, my friend, who was a teacher, he had a bit more money together than me. He bought all the gear necessary to work in pubs, and he went around and got us some jobs. And I think my first paid job was at the Rudy Hill RSL.
Oh.
In the beer garden. We actually scored a residency there, which was once every fortnight, and we did that for 3 or 4 months, I think. And then we looked into getting an agent, which we were successful at.
Oh wow!
We just took a demo, made a demo tape and took it down to the agent. Had some posters made up and just told them, we want, looking for work. And before you knew it, we're working like 3-4 nights every week.
How great is that?
Yeah, it was great. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you were quite young then, you said?
Yeah, would have been 20.
Okay.
21 then, I think. Yeah, about that, yeah.
Do you remember being nervous the first time you sung actually in the pub?
Oh, yeah. Very nervous very first time. But you just believe in what you're doing. And once you get up there and start playing, you just do your thing and sort of all the nerves just disappear.
That's true, yeah.
I still get nervous sometimes. Like, if you're going to play to a big crowd.
Yeah.
Or you're playing to your peers, or, people who are, you look up to. You can still get nervous.
But you know what, Keith? They've come to see you. So that's something, isn't it?
It is. And I'm fortunate to have a good group of people who follow me around these days, which is awesome.
It is.
And it's always, great to play for them.
Yeah.
Because, they love you and they support you, and you can't set a foot wrong,
Yeah.
Really.
So apart from the duo that you first did back in your early 20s, when did you first do a band, or did you continue doing solo work or duo work for a long time, or how did that work?
I did duo work and solo work for a good 20 years or so, from 1984, around 83, 84, until the mid-90s it would have been. And then sort of family and a sickness in my family with my then wife. I ended up stopping playing around the pubs and clubs for about 12 years.
Oh, wow.
So hadn't really ever done any bands in that first part of my career. I dabbled in a few, but never did any working bands. So that first part of my career, that first 20 years plus, was all duo and then solo. And then the 12-year break.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think it was around 2000, in the teens it was there, that I started going again to blues jams.
Yes. Yep.
And that's where I met a lot of musicians and met a lot of people. It's where I met you.
It is, down the Bald-Faced Stag.
Yeah.
What a great venue that was.
Yeah, it was. Anyway, from going to these blues jams, I came to know Jim Finn, who was the guy running one of these particular blues jams. And we got on really well. And every week he'd have a guest artist playing with the house band, which was him, another guy called Al Britton on bass, and I can't remember the other guys. Oh, Roscoe on keys
and Paul Serrani, was it, maybe?
Roscoe, Paul Serrani. He did do another jam with Jim. Yeah, that was the jam that was out at
Ruddy Hill.
The Carousel at Ruddy Hill. Yeah. So, no, I met Jimmy at the Boomplay Stag one, and he would have a guest guitarist every week. So he'd have like PJ O'Brien or Simon Kinney Lewis. There's a couple of them, and so he asked me to be one of those guys.
Wow!
Which was, I thought, oh wow, this is awesome. I'm not even like a blues player really, I didn't actually even know that many blues songs.
Yeah.
And I actually had to write some blues songs because I didn't know. I thought I'll just write my own. This would be easier.
Yes.
And they were cool with that, and they played them with me, and that led to me and Jim become better friends, and actually played a guest at a few of his bands in.
Mm-hmm.
He asked me to do a few guest appearances with them as well, which was fun, and so I sort of got the taste then for wanting to have a band. So I thought I'll start my own band. So the first one was a band I joined, which was called Back to the 60s.
Oh, okay.
And that was fun. They were a really good bunch of musicians, and it didn't really take off because I don't think I even knew what they were doing management-wise or trying to get work, and I was just sort of the last one in, so I wasn't going to step on anybody's toes or anything like that. So that band ended up folding after about a year of rehearsals, and we only ever did 2 gigs, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say I've never heard of you being in that band or with that name, and I thought, oh, that's new.
Yeah, well, it was meant to be just all 60s covers, and dancing, but anyway, that one didn't work out, and it's always is the case with a lot of bands. They don't always work out.
That's it. That happens.
So the next band I started was with guys I'd found at these blues jams. So, if you want to start a band, it is a great place to start by going to jams like this, because you meet other musicians, and you often can find like-minded musicians who are, like the same sort of things that you do.
Yes.
You find they're easy to play with. And so I found a Russian and an Aussie.
Yes.
And I added my partner's son, who can play any instrument. So
Jack is a wonder, isn't he?
Yeah, young Jack, who still plays with him both of my bands to this day. But anyway, so that was the second band. That was called Why Not?
Yes.
And that went all right for about a year and a half. We did a few dozen gigs, and it was okay. It was okay, but then when we started adding original material and stuff, there started to be a bit of friction, and the Russian guy, you'd know,
Yes,
Slava.
yes.
Yeah, he ended up leaving because he wasn't happy with the way, the direction of things, you know. And this is often a thing that happens in bands, like people don't agree on the direction, or they don't agree on particular songs, or
Yes.
you know, and it ends up busting up. So we carried on without him, and became just a three-piece, and with Jack on drums, with Steve Pager on bass, you know Steve as well, and me on guitar, and that went well again for about another year and a half, and that was when COVID hit, I think.
Yeah, it would have been. Now, what was the band? Because the band changed names, I believe.
Yeah, that was called the Blue Ride Band. And,
that's right. Yes.
And it was it was a pretty good band. It was a step up for me because playing guitar and singing and being the front man in a three-piece band is pretty big. There's nowhere to hide.
No.
You know, when you're in that situation, and you know the whole band is relying on you. I mean, your bass and drums are your meat and bones of any band, but you know that front man, lead singer, lead guitarist, rhythm guitarist, you know, you've got a big load to carry.
Absolutely. And you soon find where you need to step up.
Oh, you do, and it improved me a lot as a musician, I believe.
That's
really
good.
Yeah, pushed me to have to do better.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, it served me well. I'm still doing three-piece, and I actually really like the challenge of it.
That's good. And do you find now that you're settled with Jim on drums and Jack on bass?
Yeah.
Now that you're settled with that, did you ever feel that in the bands that you had been in before that, or that you organised before that, you would feel as settled?
No, probably not. With Jim Finn has been like playing drums since he was like 5 or 6 years old, and he did his first gig before he was even a teenager.
Oh wow!
And he's a consummate professional.
Yeah, I love Jim. He's just one of those people that
Yeah.
puts you at ease. He, takes no nonsense and he tells it like it is, and I think the world of him.
He's absolutely. He's been a really good mentor for me. He's a few years older than me. Like he's sort of like a big brother to me.
Yep.
And he certainly lets me know when I'm stuffing up.
Oh well, I guess that's good.
Certainly lets me know, and that's all good. I'm very easygoing and easy to work with.
Yeah.
And young Jack, he's got to be one of the best bass players or best musicians I've seen. I can throw any song at Jack, even if he hasn't rehearsed it, never heard it before.
Mm-hmm.
As long as he can see see my hands,
he can do it.
He'll absolutely nail it, and that gives you a lot of confidence.
Yeah, absolutely.
When your drummer and your bass player are so good, you don't have to worry. You don't have to worry about them at all.
Yeah.
And you can just concentrate on doing your thing. I'm definitely heaps more comfortable.
That's
having those two behind me.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And Keith, is guitar the only instrument you play, or do you play others as well?
I do play others. So occasionally I'll jump over onto the bass guitar and we'll let Jack sing a song and play guitar.
Oh, cool.
Because he's a killer guitar player. Like he can shred like Van Halen.
Oh, wow.
And but not that we want him to shred, but it's just good to let him have a change. And I'll jump over on the bass guitar, and I don't mind playing the bass for a song or two. It's fun and interesting.
Yes.
Something different, to what you're used to on guitar. And I also play keyboards. So I'm by no means a piano virtuoso, but I know the chords. I know enough to use it in my recording and things like that. And I do play drums, but I choose not to because it's too much hard work.
I think so too.
Drum. Yeah.
I've had to go on a drum kit and I just can't organise everything to go at the same time.
It's a very coordinated thing, the drums, and you need stamina, and you need to find a way to stay really loose.
Yes.
And that helps you not get tired, but it's difficult. It's very hard.
Yeah.
And you get people like Jim Finn who can play and sing at the same time, and he does great harmonies, and
he sure does.
I'm very fortunate to have a great drummer who can sing.
And what's the longest gig you think you've done?
Longest gig?
Yeah, as in hours, like just a 3-hour gig.
Or? Longest paid gig would have been 4 hours. I've never worked longer than that for paid gigs. There've been plenty of parties where I played over 8 hours,
Oh, wow.
Right.
Did you have any skin left on your fingers at the end of it?
Yeah, well, I might pretty good. Pretty good. My fingers haven't bled since I was a young teenager.
Yeah.
My calluses are exceptional.
Oh, that's great news. That's good. Okay, so what's your favourite genre of music to play or sing, or both?
I would say, rock pop is my favourite to sing and have much fun with it. But I do like, whenever I'm playing solo, I really do like, folk ballads or even pop ballads, where you can sort of explore your vocal a bit more, the light and dark songs, which you get more of in a ballad. I mean, a lot of rock pop, you're belting it out pretty much the whole song, a lot of them, But if you take a nice folk ballad, you can really set up a lot more dynamics with your voice.
Yes.
Where you can start soft and soulful and build it something stronger, and you can put a lot more emotion, I think, into that kind of thing.
And I think you do that exceptionally well. And plus you have not only the timbre of your voice, you've got the range, and you've also got depth and loudness as well.
Yeah, but being able to project, I think, is really important.
Absolutely. Projection, yes, that's the word I was looking for.
Yeah, they need to be able to hear you down the back just as well as they can hear up the front.
Yeah.
And you've got to really sing from your gut.
Yes.
It's where the power comes from.
And do you find it easier these days to lug around gear because the newer gear is lighter, or do you still have gear that's of a certain vintage that you wouldn't change out for anything?
Oh no, I'm all for the modern stuff that's lighter, and it's sounds great. The stuff that they're making these days sounds great. I've got 2 compact front of house speakers, and you can carry 2 of them, like on your car into the venue quite easily.
Would they be 10-inch or 12-inch or?
They're compact 12-inch, so they look like 10-inch, but they're actually 12-inch.
Okay.
And I use QSC, which you'll see around. If you're a musician, you would see them around a lot of venues.
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
They're pretty much the standard for QSC, which stands for Quality Speaker Company.
Oh.
The 1,000 watt peak each, which is around about 300 watt.
That's not a bad sound for something compact, is it?
It is. I mean, they're more than adequate for the types of venues we play at, which are, small to medium pubs,
Yes.
mostly.
Mm-hmm.
So, small to medium rooms. And I'm still not a fan of carrying it. Anybody wants to come and help me carry my gear, I'm always happy to let them.
I know the struggle is real.
Yeah.
That's
Actually, I do have a few fans who are always there at the end of a gig and then they want to carry my stuff, and I'm happy to let them.
that's for sure.
Yeah.
That's for sure. And what's your favourite place you've ever played, would you say?
Oh. Yeah, that's a hard one.
Would it have been maybe younger at a
Well,
party or a
I
bit?
think it would have been. I think it would have been one of my gigs a long, long, long time ago.
Yeah.
Back in the 80s, I remember I did a New Year's Eve down the South Coast, and we would have had like a crowd of about 1,000 people.
Oh.
And that was, and the dance floor was just packed, a couple of hundred people dancing, and that was pretty special. It sticks in my memory, so it must have been special.
Yeah, that would have been really something, looking out at all those people just enjoying themselves so much and knowing that you're helping them enjoy themselves.
Yeah, there's just so much energy in the room. You just feed off it, there's nothing like it, that kind of thing. It's such a buzz.
Yeah, definitely when people are up and dancing and singing along with you and.
Oh yeah. That's what it's all about. You can, you're truly connecting.
Yeah.
I mean, I've played gigs where there's been one person in the room, and he was falling asleep on the table because he was so drunk.
That happens.
Yeah, it does. It does happen. And I was just slowly turning the volume up to see if I could wake him up. Never managed to wake him up. No, you get some terrible gigs like that, and they can be really disheartening, and they really affect you. But luckily, another gig or two down the line, you'll have a really good one.
Yeah.
Where there will be people who are coming up to, tell you, oh, I really love your music, or that song, really touched me, it was great getting to have a dance, all these kind of things they might say to you. And, you really, and then you feel, oh, this is why I'm doing it. You remember why.
Absolutely.
You enjoy it so much. And
I guess at gigs where there's only one or a couple of people, you could always view that as a paid rehearsal.
Well, that's quite true. And it is often that what happens is, when there aren't very many people there, I still do it to this day. I mean, we still get gigs like that sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Where there's, and we will say, oh, what about we try this new one or try this, like see how it goes. And I've done quite a bit of that, and you find new great songs that way. Well, that worked really well. We should do that all the time.
And it's really good too, because you've got such a huge repertoire. You can change songs in and out, so you don't get bored of them.
That's true, absolutely true. And my band's repertoire at the moment would be about 160 songs. So,
that's good.
And of course you will have a standard lot of songs that you always do. But the other ones can be changed around, and it does help to keep things interesting.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yep.
Now, I want to talk a little bit about the songs that you've written, because I do know you've written quite a few. How many would you estimate that you've written?
I'd say about 120 to 130 songs total.
And where can people hear your music?
Some of my music is currently on Bandcamp, Spotify, Apple Music, and you'd find them by looking up, just doing a search of the name Todd, T-O-D.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd search on any of those platforms, I should come up in the search. And I've only got the one EP on there at the moment. I have done an album with my other band, FTB.
Mm-hmm.
It's FINKT, Todd and Brown. Used to be FINKT, Todd, Bootsy, but Bootsy no longer with the band. So we got another B, which is Brown.
Well, that fits.
Replaced Bootsy with the Brown. And things are much happier that way, working very well.
Good.
And so with that band, Jim Finn writes half the songs and I write the other half.
Mm-hmm.
And that band is actually gigging and doing about half originals, half Aussie covers. So it's an all Aussie show.
Yes.
And so that band FTB, we put an album out during probably just after the end of COVID. And I believe that's also on the same platforms. And the album's called Break the Chain.
Break the Chain. Fantastic.
Break the Chain, yes.
Okay.
I've got about, I think I have 6 of my original songs on there, and there's a co-write with Jim. There's one song that's co-written with him, and he's got half a dozen on there. Yeah, you'll find that on like I said, on any platforms, Bandcamp, Spotify, Apple Music. There's probably one I'm missing, but you get the gist there.
Yeah. So
you can look up Break the Chain by FTB and find that.
Yeah. So you would have sent me an MP3 of 1 or 2 songs. So I'm going to slot those into the interview probably right about now. And this is Without You.
If you ever went away, I would never be the same. I don't know whether I'd make it through. Yeah, what would I do without you? If you left me on my own, I'd feel empty and all alone. I'd be nowhere, I know it's true. Yeah, where would I be without you? Every day the skies would turn to gray. My tears would fall like rain. Every night without you by my side, I'd feel lost in all my pain. All that I know is I would be lost in sorrow and misery. Who would want to be in those shoes? What would I do without you? Every day the skies would turn to gray. My tears would fall like rain. Every
would have to say that Without You is probably one of my favourite songs from Keith. So, Keith, do you think that COVID was instrumental to you writing more music or collaborating with Jim on more music? Do you think you would have done it so much and brought out the EP if COVID wasn't around and you were gigging all the time?
Definitely not. I've always found this that whenever I'm gigging a lot, and I just don't have the time for writing.
Yeah.
So not that I can't write, but I find if I have a lot more time, I do write. And obviously during COVID, I had a lot more time.
We certainly did.
Yeah, so it was very conducive to writing and recording.
Mm-hmm.
And we did remote recording where I'd send files to Jim, he'd send files to me, and so on. And it's how a lot of the songs were put together was remotely.
Yeah.
Which worked fine, and it was good. We came up with a good album, and I think I wrote some really good songs during that COVID period. So having that time is good.
Yeah, definitely.
When I'm gigging, I find like my head is constantly filled with covers a lot of the time.
Yes.
And or having to learn new covers and exploring that all the time. There's another reason I like FTB is because we are getting to play my original stuff in that show, which is great. And I can add anything from the back catalogue if I want to. As long as it suits the genre we're trying to cover.
And how is the reception from people if you're not playing covers and playing originals instead? Like you wouldn't do a whole show of originals, or you do?
No, we don't do a whole show of originals. We found that they are very well received.
Mm-hmm.
And we tend to do more of the originals earlier in the show.
Okay, yeah.
Because once we get about halfway through the show, people are wanting to dance,
yes,
and sing along. So from that point, we pretty much we bring in the covers, the great well-known ones. People know they're going to dance to them, they're going to sing along, and that makes them really happy.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's working. That sort of format's working well,
Well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, Keith, could you tell me a funny story from any time in the past since you've been working as a musician? There's got to be a couple of funny stories.
Well, the one that always comes to mind for me, I don't know how funny it is. It was probably funny for anybody watching what happened. But when I was young, first starting out, I did tend to drink a bit.
Mm-hmm.
My partner in the duo would always do the driving, come and pick me up. He'd have all the gear. Well, basically all I had to do was get my guitar out, plug it in, and do my thing.
Yep.
And I'd get a lift to and from the gig. So this wasn't good for me because it meant that I could drink quite a bit. And anyway, this one time, I believe it was Baddo Bay Hotel, which is on Central Coast.
Mm-hmm.
I had this bottle of bourbon and it's in the hotel room because they give you a hotel room back then in those days as well. And I remember before I went out, go over to the pub and go on stage, I'd drunk about 3/4 of a bottle of Jim Beam.
Oh, my God. How were you still standing?
Well, I was still standing. I was tanked. And I remember getting on the stage. I don't remember what I was playing or whatever. It was a few songs in. And I was jumping about around a bit, and I remember I went to go to step forward. I was on about a 1 foot high stage, and
oh no!
Anyway, I went tumbling, and I did a big couple of tumbles with my guitar and everything, and ended up back on my feet. But it was right in front of the manager. Saw the whole thing.
Oh no!
and finished the song. It's like the song continued.
So you were being a stunt man.
Oh yeah, it was amazing that how I ended up back on my feet. I don't know how I did that, but anyway, right after the song finished, the managers come up and he basically told us, "Get off the stage, get out, don't ever come back here again."
Oh dear, dear. Well,
and I learned my lesson from that. I never drank that much again before a gig. No.
I want to know: did the guitar survive?
It did. It's not a scratch. I didn't have a scratch either. It was a well padded carpet.
That's a great story.
Yeah.
I guess some of the best stories too are after parties.
Oh yeah, we've had many after parties, and a lot of after parties I have ended up like I'll pull my guitar out and end up playing and singing till the sun comes up. That's happened many times in my life.
Yeah, that's the best, isn't it? That's the absolute best.
Yeah, I've had some great times like that, just around a table with a bunch of friends and singing all the songs we know and love. Yeah, great.
Yeah. How many hours do you reckon you've sung for before your voice gives out? Or does it just keep going? Is it like the ever ready bunny and just keep going?
It will wear out, especially if you're doing rock, and you're playing loud. It's about 3 gigs, so it's about 8 hours of like full on hard singing.
Yeah. Like you mean
and
like
even
the
after
Jimmy...
that, I can keep going, but you tend to start to lose your tops, your high notes. Your voice you can't sing those really high notes, and you've been too much strain on your vocal cords. And then it takes a good 3 or 4 days to recover from that.
And if you're a working musician, you don't need that because you'll be back at work the next weekend.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And you don't want to do any damage either.
You don't. You don't. Unfortunately, I don't smoke anymore. I found when I used to smoke when I was young, it actually didn't last as long as it does now.
Yeah.
Would be 2 gigs, and I would be starting to lose the high notes on my voice. So.
Yeah. Smoking's terribly destructive to your voice and your lungs.
It is. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's terrible for it.
And speaking of which, have you found it a very marked improvement from when the room used to be full of smoke or the venue used to be full of smokers to when they stopped allowing smoking inside?
I haven't really noticed a difference. I'm sure it would make a difference, though. I think it would make a huge difference. You got to look after your voice, and I'm glad that they don't have smoking in venues now.
Yeah. Oh, look, we were doing a gig, and we were outside, and the lady come and lit the brazier, the fire pit. And which way do you think all the smoke come? Straight onto us. And I'm just like, I can't sing in that. I did, but all of our equipment and everything just stunk of smoke. And I just thought, imagine being in a small room and people still smoking. How destructive.
Yeah, true. True.
So do you like going and seeing other bands, Keith? What's the best live show or band that you've seen?
Well, if you're talking local, I've been going to watch this band recently. I've seen them play about 3 times now, and it's called. He's called Kevin Bennett and the Flood.
Okay.
And they're a little bit country, kind of but very Aussie. He's got all these really great original songs, and the band is just so smooth and tight, and just I think they've been playing together for like over 30 years or something. This band,
Mm-hmm.
I'd highly recommend them.
Yep.
That's Kevin Bennett and the Flood.
The Flood. Yep.
Yeah. And they play up at the Bayview Tavern quite often, which is over at Gladesville.
Yep.
So I highly recommend, going and see them because I've really enjoyed it. And I don't go out to see a lot of bands. I really don't.
No.
I haven't. I mean, I've obviously back in the 80s, I went to the entertainment centre quite a few times. I think I saw Dire Straits and Elton John and John Cougar Mellencamp,
Mm-hmm.
which was one of the best shows I've seen. Like you're talking like international acts.
Yes.
He was really, really good. Like on the record, like listening to a record almost.
Wow. Because I know that a lot of bands, when they're in the recording studio, of course, they do take after take after take. Or, that guitar part wasn't any good, but this guitar part was good, and they can mishmash it all around.
Yeah.
And I have heard and seen that you go and see a show and it's like, hang on, that's not quite like the record.
No, because the high production in the recording studio, they're trying to make everything sound exactly as they want it to sound, like the best it can be. And reproducing that live is always difficult.
Yeah.
You have to think about that when you're recording your stuff. I think if you want to reproduce it well,
Mm-hmm.
you've got to record it as such, so it can be reproduced live.
Yeah, I think that's very important because some of the later Beatles things, and I know they stopped doing live shows because they were just so overwhelmed with crowds, I guess, and I'm sure there was more than that reason. But some of the things that they did later on in the studio, they would have had no hope of ever doing on stage.
Yeah, not as four piece. All the orchestral songs where they had full orchestras playing in them, and just would have been very difficult to do without an orchestra with them.
Have you ever seen
probably what they would have done?
Yeah. Have you ever seen the Beatles live at all? Or Paul McCartney, because he's going to come out here shortly?
He is. No, I've never had the pleasure of that. I would have loved that. And I'd even thought about going to see Paul McCartney.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I'm already booked on that night that he's in Sydney.
Yeah.
I won't be able to go see him.
And plus you'd have to mortgage your house for it. It's very expensive.
I know. To get a decent seat.
Yes. Yeah.
If you're going to go see something like that, you want to be close to the front, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. That's what I think as well. All right,
so... It's a shame I won't get to see him. It'll probably be the last time he ever comes out here, I would say. But anyway, that's the way it is.
Yeah, I think so too. What a shame, but anyhow. So what's coming up for you, Keith? What have you got on the drawing board?
Got lots more gigs for the two bands I play in and the duo I play in and solo, and that's going to keep going. But otherwise, we're looking at recording another FTB album. I'm looking at recording a FINKT album, and they're the two main things that we're looking at. The FINKT album will be interesting because it'll be a different bunch of songs to what FTB is doing.
Okay.
Very different songs for that band. Be more rock pop, whereas the FTB is more about rock and roll and rockabilly and.
Nice.
Nice.
Well, I look forward to seeing those come out. I'm sure you're going to give me all your links so that I can post them with the podcast, and people can then have a look and keep up to date with what you're doing and where you're appearing at.
Cool. So, I will send you some links to our website and social media.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Mostly it's all posted on social media these days.
Yeah.
It seems to be where it's at. I mean, a lot of people don't bother to go looking at websites anymore. And
No.
So, yeah, that's where it's at. So that's where you'll see all the gigs listed is on social media. So I'll send you a link for that. And I can also send you some links for the music we've recorded, the FTB album and the Todd EP.
Yep, that'd be great.
Yep.
And
so I won't worry about the website.
no worries.
Because I'm just not gonna. I just can't keep up with all of it. You know, like trying to post all over with the social media. There's a few of those, and trying to do all the same of that on the website as well, and email people and send invites here and invites there. To, you know, it takes a lot of your time up.
It certainly does. That's for sure.
Yeah. Mm.
Now, do you play anywhere regularly around Sydney?
We do. Well, FINKT is playing regularly at the Merton Hotel, which is in Rozelle. We play there the first Sunday and the third Sunday of every month.
Yes.
FTB, the band, are playing regularly at the Gary Owen Hotel once a month, and at the Crown Hotel in Sydney, Elizabeth Street, Sydney, playing there once a month. So that takes care of the original band, or half originals, half covers. So now it's 2 gigs a month for them. And FINKT also play regularly at Timok Bridge Hotel, Miss Seeley's at Ashfield. I don't think of the others.
Well, we can.
Gowrie Hotel, we're trying to get back there. That's all I can think of at the moment, but there's a few regulars, as you heard.
Yeah.
And that's all it takes. You get a few residencies, and you're constantly working. Oh, the Orange Grove Hotel at Lilyfield is another one we do every month. So that fills us up. Plus, I'm a co-host in a music trivia.
I was just getting to that. Yeah.
Which we do every Wednesday at Miss Seeley's in Ashfield, and we've been doing that for over 2 years now.
That long, my goodness.
Yeah, it's been great. Yeah, and we get pretty good showing there most weeks.
Yeah,
and it's a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun and get to play a few songs as well.
So who else hosts that with you?
Well, Jim Finn is the other host, plus Chris Turner. Who's also been doing it with us for quite a while now. Chris Turner was probably best known for his guitarist with Rose Tattoo.
Yes.
And the band Buffalo, which has got a little bit of fame in the 70s.
It sure does, yes.
Yeah. So he's a very well-known guitarist and a very, very, very good guitarist. Also repairs guitars and does guitar setups if anybody's interested in that.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, and he's very good at it.
Well, Keith, I seem to know that you have built some guitars.
Well, that's true. I have built guitars, and I can also do setups and any sort of electronic work on the guitars. But I did that for a while because I found it really interesting and satisfying, but then I just sort of didn't have the time for it anymore.
Yeah.
But I did build and sell quite a few guitars. I think about a dozen or so guitars I built and sold.
Fantastic.
Predominantly Telecasters. Was on the Telly man.
Yeah, well, yes.
You can't beat a Telecaster in my opinion, but, plenty people would argue with me.
They would.
No doubt about that.
Everybody likes something different. So out of electric guitar and acoustic guitar, what is your personal favourite?
That's very hard to choose. If I'm playing in a band, I'd much prefer to play electric guitar. But if I'm playing solo, or at a party or things like that, I'd much rather be on the acoustic.
Right. And what brand of acoustic guitar do you have at the present? Now that I took the Mini Maiden.
Yeah. Well, I have 3. I have 3 acoustic guitars at the moment, and the one I'm playing at the moment, my go-to at the moment is the Maiden Nashville 808, which is a beautiful guitar.
Oh, yes.
And so I have that one. Then it's Brother, the Cole Clark Angel. It's an Angel 2. Also a beautiful guitar to play. And haven't played that one for a while. It's been sitting in the cupboard. It's probably pining for some company.
Probably. She probably wants to come to my house, I reckon.
Yeah. But, you know, and both of those guitars are worth over $2,000 each.
Yes, yeah.
But, the guitar I do end up going back to a lot is another guitar that I don't actually own it. It's actually owned by my partner, Tanya. She bought it. Mm-hmm. She can't play guitar, but she bought this guitar, and I think she bought it so I could play it for her.
I'd say so. So you could serenade her.
And but I spotted the bargain. So, you know, I found this bargain. It was on Gumtree, and it's about 10 years ago, and it's a beautiful Ovation. You know, a lot of people don't like Ovations, but this is an Ovation legend. It's a 1987 model.
I've played that guitar, and it's beautiful.
It is a beautiful guitar, you know, but a lot of people don't like those guitars because they have the bold plastic back on them, you know.
Yeah.
I think it's made out of plastic. I'm not sure what's made out of.
Fiberglass or something, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, it could be fiberglass, but it's quite a big back on them. They're like a bowl, and a lot of people don't find them uncomfortable, or that they slip off your knee and this kind of thing. But I'm okay with them. I don't find that a real deterrent for me to play it. I find it's a really nice guitar to play. It's got a beautiful tone, and
yes,
it's got an old school acoustic guitar pickup in it, which it works really well. It gives you a really good sound. So I still do play that one. Take that one to a gig occasionally and I play that.
Yeah.
So I tend to move around. I don't always play the same one. I'll play one for a while, then I'll get the other one out now and give that a crack for a while.
Yeah. So you only have all Telecasters as electric guitars, or do you have a Strat in there somewhere?
No, I only have Telecasters. I have had Strats, had a few Strats, and I've had Gibson Les Pauls, and always found myself, I just keep coming back to a Telecaster. It's where I feel most comfortable playing.
Yeah.
I find it's a more versatile guitar, as in it can cover more genres than other guitars. Like a Gibson Les Paul I find to be very much a rock guitar. Now Strats are close to Telecasters, although you have a tremolo on a Strat, and I find that with Strats it might be my playing style, but I tend to put them out of tune a lot. So I don't have that problem with the Tele, you know.
Yeah.
So it just comes down to
personal taste, I guess.
Not just what I like, but my style as well. I think how I play it suits the Tele better.
Yeah. All right, Keith. Well, I think that might be about all for tonight, unless you have something else you would love to share with the listeners.
I don't think so. Just look out for the albums that will be coming out.
I'm sure we can promote those when they're out.
Oh, that would be great if you could, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I appreciate that.
All right, then.
There's going to be some really good songs. We've got some buttes that really need to see the light of day, and they haven't.
Yeah. Well, I, for one, am looking forward to hearing those. That's for sure. I absolutely love your original music, and I hope you keep writing it for many years to come and performing as well.
Thanks, Crystal. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being on here with us tonight, Keith. And with that, we'll say good night.
Thank you, Crystal. Good night.
Good night. And here's another fantastic song from Keith Todd called What's Going On. And on it, you'll also hear the beautiful vocals of Jim Finn and also his drumming prowess.
it something that I've done? What do you need? What do you want? What's going on with you? Just tell me the truth. What's going on? What's going on? You can't see, but you can't hear. You can't speak, what do you fear? I want you to know I'm here. Tell me why you disappear. What's going on with you? Just tell me the truth. What's going on? What's going on? Some may think you've lost the plot. Could be right or maybe not. You can't trust anyone. Tell me now what's going on. Yeah. Why can't you give me a break? Just a little give and take. Life is only what you make. I've had enough, for goodness sake. What's going on with you? Just tell me the truth. What's going on? What's going on? Well, it's written on your face. You don't want me in your space. It's so hard just keeping pace. And you're gone without a trace. What's going on with you? Just tell me the truth. What's going on? What's going on? What's going on with you? Just tell me the truth. What's going on? 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 What's going on?
And that was What's Going On by Keith Todd. You have been listening to Conversations with Crystal, and I'm your hostess, Crystal. Next week, we have another fabulous guest. So until then, please stay happy, stay safe, stay cool, stay awesome, but most of all, stay tuned to this channel. Good night.